Again, my name is Dr. Lee Ostler. I'm a dentist in Washington State, and this is the Asea 5. As Maureen would say, it is 5 o'clock somewhere, but right now this is Asea 5. We excuse Dr. Maureen Hayes and Jim and Ann Glenn, who are our regular Asea 5 co-hosts. They are at an Asea event in San Antonio, Texas this night. So we wish them well, along with all of those who are attending that event. I have with me tonight Dr. Ray Dixon, who is a chiropractor and naturopath from Phuket, Thailand. He was originally hails from, or at least his professional career was spent in Australia. So you may notice that his accent is a little different than mine, but we love him. But he's going to help me tonight. And we have with us Dr. Dick Walker, who is a physician in Spokane, Washington, who is really one of our rock solid stellar anchors in Asea. And he and I sit on the medical professionals board. And so it's been a pleasure to rub shoulders and work with him and share the science back and forth. In my opinion, and I don't mean to begrudge anybody else, I think the three of us tonight probably, I'm not going to say we have a corner on the Asea science market, but we understand the science very well. And so we will try to not go so deep that nobody but the three of us understands it. Although if we do, and you see saliva drooling on our face because we love it so much, you hopefully will understand. So Ray, thank you for joining us. And I think I'd like to start with Dr. Dick. If you could, I know you've been a regular with the Asea 5 in the past. This isn't a new time, but we've got a lot of new people who will be joining us tonight or who will be watching this on replay. Could you maybe step back in time and give us an idea of where you came from with regards to Asea? What were you doing, when Asea came into your life? What was the stage setting there? Why did you look at it? What did it mean to you? And kind of bring us up to speed with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was 64 years old. I was kind of at the twilight of my medical career, but I was working a lot of hours. The financial markets had hammered my savings plan. And so I was looking at working a few more years longer than I wanted to. And I was primarily an emergency physician, and I actually enjoyed that a lot, the challenges of it. But I didn't necessarily want to continue at the degree that I was. And I also was looking for some alternative approaches that might help my wife, Nancy, who had a condition that really didn't have an appropriate label. She just hurt all over. She had no energy. And here was a woman who had climbed mountains with me, rock climber, and just had gotten hammered by something. And nothing that we tried was really helping. And so I was kind of looking. I was also, as I said, almost 65 years old. My body was starting to tell me that I couldn't keep climbing mountains all over the world and have a full-time medical career because I was just starting to get older. And so I was also looking at the anti-aging literature and looking for something that might slow down that progressive decline that I was starting to see. I was coming from a pretty high level, having been a Mount Everest climber, but I was starting to see that my body maybe wasn't going to be able to keep doing that kind of stuff. And so I was looking for something for me to address aging issues. I was looking for something for Nancy. Quite frankly, I was also open to business opportunities. I had done a little bit of networking in the past, had not had near the success that I've had in Asea, but I love the business model. I just hadn't bumped into another company with a product that I was willing to represent. And then along came Asea. I knew a little bit about Redox. I knew nothing about Asea. A friend called me up and he said, and he knew what I was looking for, and because he was in the medical field as well, Jerry White, physical therapist. And he said, I found something you might want to take a look at. And so I said, yeah, when you can come over? He said, tomorrow. I said, good, let's talk about it. And that was really my first introduction to Asea Redox. And I, like Lee and Ray, I became a student of the technology. Quite frankly, we didn't know much about redox at all. There were very few references in the scientific literature, but there was enough there to intrigue me that that this science was real, that there was something going on here, and that and that this little company out of Pleasant Grove, Utah was onto something. And so, Jerry and I flew down to corporate headquarters, which was a little tiny office in a big office complex. Not really impressive, but the science was impressive. And that was the beginning. And I jumped in, didn't have a lot of time, but jumped in, started talking to people about it, and started to have, I knew the product was going to work because I had gone to some events and heard testimonies and talked to the people that were sharing these. And, it was just phenomenal what was happening. And so I started to share it with people I knew that had problems, share it with people that were financially stressed. And before you know it, I was starting to make money. And within a couple of years, I was making enough money that I was able to retire from medicine so that I could do Asea more hours of the day. And, it's been a great opportunity. It's been fun. We've been able to help a lot of people and been able to maintain a lifestyle without having to work all of those ungodly hours in the ER, which has been an eye opener for me as well. So that's my story in summary, anyway.
When you started, and I'd like to come back maybe later, we can talk about that, what the comment you made about you started to make enough money that you replaced your income and it allowed you to retire. But in the early days, did you have a personal, health story with regards to this technology, or was that mostly your wife's?
That was mostly Nancy's. I've had some pretty cool things happen to my health, but I've always been into, vitamins, alternatives, and healthy living lifestyle and all that. But I didn't really have a challenge that I was looking for something. I was looking for something primarily for Nancy. My mom was also getting older. It had some challenges, but in terms of the product, it was more Nancy. And quite frankly, I got into this business because of the business, and the product validated that. What happened, I didn't become convinced that I was going to do this business because of what happened with Nancy, because it didn't happen right away with Nancy. I was convinced after talking to people at some Asea gatherings and studying the science and getting some inkling of what was going on there. I wanted the business to be successful. I wanted to get out of the emergency room and do something that I could do from home and have more time flexibility to spend with Nancy and my kids who were still around. So yeah, I love this business model, and I was very open to a new company as long as it had a product like Asea, and there's no other product out there like Asea with the potential and the monopoly position, and there's not a person in the world who wouldn't benefit from using this technology. So the base of people who need this is wide open. So,
hey Ray, I'd like to jump over to you and bring you in. For those who, and this is the first time that the two of you have been on together on Asea 5. And, I just want to point out that if you came on here tonight expecting Dr. Carolyn Hoffman, she had something come up and was unable to join us, and we appreciate Dr. Walker. So he doesn't look at all like Dr. Hoffman, but that's okay. We'll get her on later. But the three of us represent, interestingly, kind of a broad cross-section in healthcare, where we have, chiropractic, naturopathic, obviously dentistry, oral health, and traditional medical practice, if you will. But all of us also have some, I'll call it side specialty or emphasis in nutritional support, health, cellular functioning and so forth, which is kind of really what this is about. Could you just jump on and maybe quickly summarize, where you were at, when you first saw this, why you took a serious look at it, and what is it that kind of rattled that chain for you and got you involved?
Thank you, Dr. Lee, and thank you, Dr. Walker. It is the first time that we've had the opportunity to interact directly, and I appreciate that. It's been amazing watching the stories of the health professionals and everyone in us here. My story is the backstory quickly is my asthma was removed with natural therapy treatments at the age of 18. So that was a revelation for me at the time, and I decided that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I basically followed the pursuits that the practitioner who treated me had pursued before me, and that was to become a naturopath, studying osteopathy as well. And then I went on and did chiropractic. So I've then spent my life with natural healing methodologies. That's just what I do. I had tried to find the Holy Grail, as I call it, something universal and special. There's lots of great things in natural healing and medicine, herbal medicine, nutritional medicine. I've pursued dry needling, acupuncture, etc. But I never did find sort of a singular universal healing product until this product came along. So the reality is I'd stopped looking because I didn't think there was one. So when this was first mentioned to me by a 5 times heavyweight karate champion of the world, Lorraine Babat, and a good friend and also patient of mine for many years, I took it with a grain of salt. I really thought, like Dr. Walker, before me, this was about 6 years ago, I had never heard of Redox. I figured if I haven't heard of it, can't be anything substantial, a common problem for all of us. And really didn't pay heed until a little bit later when she came for a holiday with me here in Phuket. And I had then more time. So I really seriously looked then at some of the result stories, which were nothing short of astounding and miraculous. And they are no exaggeration. So that still made it hard to believe. But as with Dr. Walker, there was a lot more science around when I was looking 6 years ago as opposed to 12 years ago. And so the credibility of the science was there. And so I soon realized, look, you didn't know because it's new. So I thought you've got to give this a chance because it may well be. Now, remember, this is my raison d'etre. This is my life, natural healing. And although I'd retired from my clinic and moved to Phuket, I still see some patients here every day, including today. But I didn't want to go back, as with Dr. Walker, interestingly, to a confined, busy 12-hour day practice consultation room. So I was retired, actually. I was only going to see a handful of patients. I don't advertise here. People find me somewhat coincidental, accidentally. They ring other practitioners who are too busy and they send them to me because they know I'm here. And that's the way it will stay, so I can confine that. Now, just to end that story is once I started to use the product because I wanted to use it, I didn't have a health challenge myself at all. So I still wanted to be on it because prevention is better than cure. There's many ailments in my family, genetics, and my father and my brother, and I didn't want those. So I'm 67 now. So 4.5 years ago, I got started, and I will never, ever not take this product. I now have shared it around the world. And interestingly, again, it's slightly aligned, but not exactly with Dr. Walker. I wasn't looking for a business opportunity, but no one's going to say no. And I certainly wouldn't say no to something I've always been looking for. I, though, equally to Dr. Walker, had participated in network marketing nutritional product companies in the past. So I also love the model. I had no issue with that model. And you, Dr. Lee, might like to talk about that from your perspective, because it's interesting dynamic we have between the three of us. So I had no issue with that model. So again, once I realized this is for real and it is extraordinary, and my own statement now is that this is the greatest health product that I've ever worked with. And I could list hundreds of herbs, hundreds of homeopathics, and many, many nutritional supplements. So here I am, loving the journey, traveling the world. It's just a great, great experience. And I'm privileged to interact with people like yourselves. Thank you.
Well, thank you. You know, as I listen to the two of you talk and reflect on my own experience here, it's interesting that all three of us became introduced to Asea by and large, not through our own personal experience with taking the product. It wasn't something that we had a personal aha moment with regards to how we've, take it 1 week and, how you respond to it by the next week type of a thing. It was through other people and or just purely through proving the science. And I was listening to Alan Noble talk last week, and he mentioned that as, how do you know this is real? Well, you can have a personal experience. You can witness another person's experience. And of course, we all have experience professionally following protocols that when they're followed and people get well, you conclude after thousands and thousands and thousands of, of incidents like that, that yes, indeed, those protocols are effective in accomplishing the end, result that you want. But the third way is to dig into the science. And, all three of us have had that passion about understanding cellular biology so that we could explain and just have no question, that this was not something that was kind of fly by night or, that came from out of left field, as they say, but that this was grounded, with exceptionally good science. Dick, could I toss this back to you and maybe you address that and recognizing that we're going to have more than just health professionals, listening to this. So, maybe not go into the complete deep dive, but could you give us at least a broad overview of why this matters? What is the cellular biology that's at the foundation of why we're even together tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, life begins at the cellular level. And if you don't have healthy cells, you're not going to have a healthy body. And so often we forget that, or many people forget that. And the body does have an amazing ability to keep itself healthy and to manage a wide variety of challenges. But it only has that ability because of the science that underlies that. And it only maintains that ability if we give the body all of the pieces that it needs to stay healthy. I used to tell people, I still do, that, health is like, my wife and I like to do crossword puzzles, especially over the holidays. We'll challenge ourselves with the 3,000 piece puzzle. And I tell people that your health is like that. And as when you finish a crossword puzzle, if there's a piece missing because it got lost in the shuffle somewhere, it's just not complete. And your health isn't complete unless you fill in all those blanks, or at least as many as you can. And as it turns out, Asea redox, the redox molecules and the functionality of redox signaling in cellular communication are a very important part of that. And if we don't assure that our cells in our body can communicate with each other, that they can make sure that the basic biochemistry of cellular health is not kept functioning in an orderly fashion, we get sick. And we can get sick pretty fast. Excellent example for me, my brother who's 77, and he does take Asea, not as much as I do. He's not quite as serious about it as I am. I think he forgets some days. He got sick a couple of weeks ago and almost died. He was in the ICU for 3 or 4 days with pneumonia, and I was worried that we were going to lose him. And he's still not totally out of the woods because that illness hammered his heart. And now he's suffering some changes there. But, I know that Asea is going to help him to get out of the woods with that. And now that he's out of the ICU environment, we're able to get him to use this wonderful technology. And although Asea isn't intended to cure, heal, or treat anything in particular, it has an effect on everything that goes on in the healthier body at the cellular level, and is hugely important. And without really going into the science of how it helps our cells to, guard against oxidative stress and inflammation and all of those myriad of problems that are out there waiting to challenge our health, without redox, without a adequate supply of these molecules, and there's a number of them, our body just can't do the miraculous things that it does to stay healthy. And it is miraculous. And, the three people staring at you right now, because of what we've done in our professional career, we really appreciate what your body does, because as professionals, all we can do is tinker around the edges. If you've got an infection, we can prescribe an antibiotic, but I can tell you that it's not the antibiotic alone that gets rid of that infection. It's your immune system. It's your cardiovascular system managing the rest of the body, your nervous system. All of those things have to be functioning at a certain level, or you're not going to succeed in mounting those challenges and overcoming them. And redox is a very, 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 I don't know how many varies we have time for, important component of that at the foundation of our health. And there isn't anything, I don't think, that's more important. If you could single out a certain area, a certain category or product, there is nothing that's more important than redox signaling molecules, because of their multiple functionalities in keeping us healthy and getting us back to that wonderful healthy situation if we find ourselves challenged and stressed.
Hey, Ray, could you come at that from a natural healing perspective? I mean, you have such beautiful language and understanding of this from angles that most of us don't have. Could you address what he was kind of going over, but from your perspective?
I understand. I love it. I love this, and I love the way Dr. Dick explains it as well, because you can't explain it in too many ways, because it's about reaching audiences. From a natural healing perspective, all natural healing is true healing. We actually don't believe there is any other kind of healing. So Dr. Walker actually touched on that. Even with the use of antibiotics, you're facilitating the body's natural healing, which you yourself, Dr. Lee, call the inner doctor. So from a vitalistic medicine perspective, which put simply says, you give the body what it needs and the body will take care of itself. The body is the healer, or whatever created the body, however you wish to see that. Provide the materials, provide the labor, the body will take care of itself. And the body taking care of itself, by the way, means cells healing, cells repair, cells functioning optimally. If cells are healed and function optimally, you will be the healthiest you could ever possibly be, and therefore at your maximum potential. So from the vitalistic medicine perspective, which underpins every natural healing methodology in the world, it doesn't matter if it's Ayurveda from India, or Chinese medicine from China, or Western herbal medicine or nutrition, they are all taught the vitalistic healing philosophy, because that's what we believe. We provide the body with the Mother Nature provided things. Now, the difference here, which is so unique, we've known for aeons about, and here in Thailand, similarly, there's a very strong traditional medicine belief system here with the herbs, et cetera, et cetera. So we've known that when you provide, antioxidants and a whole bunch of other things through herbs and nutrition and healthy diet, we've known about those materials for a long time. Our white Dr. Walker, no doubt, and yourself, Dr. Lee, were interested in nutrition. That comes with knowing a bit about materials. But what we never knew, and that's what's so unique and fascinating for me, no one knew about redox signaling molecules until the first Nobel Prize in 1998. That is like yesterday. So if you just think, interestingly, in all traditional healing methodologies, there'll be no mention of redox because it wasn't known. Yet, what they believed in terms of vitalism, vital referring to energy, they certainly will talk about prana, or they'll talk about chi, or they'll talk about life force. What is that? Now, my view is that this is the connecting point between that and the human body and the cell. As Dr. Walker said, this is the highest pinnacle of anything that has ever been discovered to affect the cell. And therefore, everything, as you would say, Dr. Lee, downstream, everything. And this is nano size, no more than 4 atoms. I don't think we're going to get much tinier than that. And so it's really interesting that this plugs in, like perfectly with that whole natural healing science methodology, but we've known nothing about it before because the science had yet not unraveled into the redox sphere and into the science sphere at our level of existence. But if I can perhaps ask Dr. Walker here, because as far as I'm aware, Dr. Walker is one of the few medical professionals who was already aware of an evolving redox science before looking further at this particular product. Most health professionals I've seen, like you, Dr. Lee, and me, and many others, Dr. Rick Michael, came from results. You know, they saw a result, like you said earlier, they thought, well, what is this? I need to figure it out. But I do believe, Dr. Walker, you were aware of some of the evolving science before you heard of Asea itself as a redox product. Could you address that?
Yeah, I would say that I was minimally aware because there really wasn't much awareness out there. And where I saw it being mentioned was in the very early evolving days of anti-aging, and talking about the in very simplistic terms about the decrease in redox signaling as being part of the aging process and probably a big part of the reason for aging, for why we age, why we deteriorate. And that caught, I can't remember what articles it was. I was cruising around looking for everything I could find on PubMed. But the conclusion that I came to was that, gee whiz, this could be as close as we might get to the fountain of youth in some way. And it was very scientific. It was, you know, here's something that our body makes and we don't make as much of it as we get older. And there were some early things, you know, talking about worms and, you know, microbes that were showing that these molecules were important. And yeah, it was just, and I had no inkling that there was a product in this space. Because what I could glean from what I did learn was that we were looking at 20 or 30 years before we'd ever have a functional product in this space. And yet Asea already existed at that time. I just didn't know about that either. And so when I found out that there was a company that had a product that they claimed was redox signaling, I was all about learning more about that. So I was primed to a certain degree, and then after I got interested, then I started going to meetings that were being held and hearing testimonies, and then got the product, tried it with Nancy, went down to corporate. So it all that stuff sort of happened all at once, but I was aware of redox science as little as there was when I first started looking at this almost 11 years ago.
Well, Dr. Lee,
go ahead, Ray.
Lee, what about the way you were introduced, Dr. Lee?
Was that to me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, let me get to that in just a moment. I wanted to follow up here with a quick comment, kind of playing off of what both of you just said. And that is, in the research that I've done and writing the 2 books that I've done, I came away from that recognizing, and this is, I'm going to make a blanket kind of statement, but it really reflects this kind of vitalism philosophy, you know, that you were discussing, and that is, there are products, there are techniques, there are gadgets, there's activities and behaviors, and, you know, there's dozens and dozens of those in the market today, and within the healthcare space that make us more well. I was going to say weller, you know, it's a continuum, but that improve our health. And the question is, why do they do it? You know, why do they all have a piece of the action, a piece of the pie, where they can claim, legitimately so, that they are improving your core basic cellular health in one way or another? And, you know, because when I started with it, I had a little bit of a defensive posture because I wanted to defend maybe some beliefs that I had. But the deeper I got into it, that really went away. That fence went down because I recognized what the core redox biology was. And that's why, you know, Dr. Ray, and you've influenced me with this whole idea of that redox signaling are the deepest cell messenger or deepest redox signaling messengers that we've ever discovered. And it's where energy meets matter. And it's where this basic process goes. And you know what? This is where this idea of the redox lifestyle emerges, because I can exercise, I can fast, I can eat, good foods with good phytochemicals, I can take herbs, I can use pulsed electromagnetic frequency, I can use biophotostimulation, I can use magnets, I can go on and on and on. And the question is, rather than attacking those as, oh, that's kind of hokey or whatever, any one of those, the question should be, well, how do they work? Upon what biological platform do they improve anybody's health? Anybody meaning, humans or animals and so forth, because we're talking about cells. And the answer is because it affects these redox biological pathways. This is about the epigenetic modulation or the epigenetic management of our core code. It's how their DNA knows to respond. It's a responsive ability, a response ableness that's hardwired into our biology such that we can coexist in a world that's full of stresses and toxins and ill effects. It's like, how do you respond to that and get better? And so I just kind of wanted to put my kind of like my flavor on that by talking about that in unison, because I'm not really anti anything else anymore. Because now that I know the core science, all of it works, except some of this works better than others. It's just like when we talk about the business side, we have to say, not all income is created equal. There are ways of earning income that are more highly leveraged, that play at a deeper level than anywhere else, and that we can be on that a little bit later. But from this, so you asked the question how I got into this. Mine was purely from my wife's experience. Her internist, she's had 4 decades worth of some very challenging health issues, and we've been, I'll say, everywhere in quote marks. We've been to some considerably high-placed medical clinics and facilities all over for 40 years. And when her physician suggested to us one day that we should get her on redox signaling, and I asked him what is that, because I really hadn't heard about it. I think I knew what redox meant, but it's like it went over my head. And he said, just go get some. And I said, I know, but what is it? And he says, well, just go get some. I think it will help. And we left the appointment, and that's all I knew. I had to source it out on my own. When I did, it was like, this is one of those things, isn't it? And that was the other hard pill for me to swallow personally. But the experience that she had with it was like flipping a switch. And this is an important maybe point to make a disclaimer that we're not, we don't put this out there with any claim to treat or diagnose or cure anything. This is a supplement. It was going to be a pharmaceutical grade product managed under supervision from physicians by prescription. And then it was that was stopped, and it was basically flipped over to the supplement side of the FDA. So new rules apply. And we don't talk about making claims or curing or anything like that. This is a supplement. And so with those understandings, we can describe the effects that it has. We can describe the mechanisms of action that redox molecules play in the body and allow people to kind of connect the dots. As everybody will find out soon enough, the company Asea that makes this redox signaling supplement is actively pursuing research as we speak, and in the future to be able to provide us with some more tangible things that we can talk about regarding these mechanisms of action and the effects they have in the body. But in the meantime, there's tens and tens of thousands of articles now that have emerged. And I like this concept of the rising tide raises all boats, because we're going to hear about this just like Dr. Dick had heard about it in a different space without ever knowing anything about the company or this specific product. But we're going to be hearing more of that about this. And this is another great reason why it's a good idea to, if you're listening to this, either at the moment or on replay, that you get with the person that invited you to learn about this. If you stumbled across this organically, you can get a hold with somebody, call us or do something. But the purpose for this is to help introduce this technology to people and explain the breakthrough. So my experience was through her eyes, witnessing what she did. And then I, being the hard-headed, really intense person in my brain, I had to dive into the science. I've written some other books, about oral health principles and general health. And so I'd kind of had some practice in doing research and writing. And that's what I did for 2 or 3 years is I researched the science. I had to know for myself it was true. So I came at it by watching my wife and by going to the literature and saying, there is something here. I can't totally explain it totally yet at the time, but there is something here. And that's what dragged me into this. And with that, I recognize that I need to pay this forward. I need to share this with other people and so forth. Dick, I'd like to come back to you and say, we've got this blue bottle that these redox signaling molecules come in. Could you describe, I know we're going to have some health professionals listening to this because they love Dr. Dick Walker. And so to explain, what is a redox signaling molecule? What is this thing we're talking about, and how does it work in the cells, and why does it matter?
It all gets down to, I was just looking at the chat to see if there's anything we needed to jump on, but it really all gets down to moving electrons around and accepting or giving up electrons, and that's how our body signals. And so redox signaling molecules are just a class of molecules that come out of the bottom of the Krebs cycle. Many of them, if you're biochemically aware, they're reactive oxygen species. And it's really the balance of those within the cells that accounts for the messaging. And I don't know if we need to be any more specific than that. I mean, if you really dig into the science, you're going to understand how absolutely foundational these molecules are and how necessary they are to pretty much everything that goes on in your cell, in addition to the detect, repair, replace, functions of what these molecules are really great at. And, one of the, if you haven't read Dr. Ostler's books, I would highly recommend them. And one of the big pieces that I got out of, and I think it was your second book, was what we've been alluding to here, and that is the reason why all of these other natural things that we do, whether it's massage or lasers or electromagnetic stimulation, they all work because they affect the redox cycle in our cells, the redox signaling in our cells. And I didn't put that piece together until I read Lee's book. So in that way, if you're into shortcuts and you want to biohack your system and get some of the benefits of a lot of those things without having to do them, drink Asea, drink Redox, supplement your body's supply of redox signaling molecules, and let your body do with them what they need to do and what they're going to do. So there's various ways of getting at that. For instance, I was doing a conference call with a woman, I think she was from Australia, who is involved with marketing a glutathione supplement. And I said, well, glutathione is good, but there's a whole lot of other things that are good too. And are you concerned about how much of that glutathione can actually get inside the cell? And because she had just told me about how they had proof that it raised the glutathione level in the bloodstream. And I said, well, that's okay, but really it has to get into the cell for you to get the benefits that you need to get. And guess what? There's other things that are important to your cellular health in addition to glutathione. And then I started to explain how redox signaling molecules also raised your intracellular glutathione levels, along with some of the other really important antioxidants, in addition to doing a whole bunch of other good things. And maybe I suggested to her that if she was going to talk about something that was a holy grail of cellular health, maybe she ought to further investigate redox signaling molecules in Asea, because that's how I see it. I see Asea as that holy grail, if you want to, put a title on it, because it does so many influential things at the cellular level, and it does it in conjunction with, in line with, all of the basic biochemistry of how the cells work. And it works with the cell, not against the cell, and it doesn't push the cell in awkward directions like some supplements and certainly many medications can do. I tell people that there's absolutely no chance that Asea Redox is going to cause any harm. It cannot do that. Your body is never going to use these molecules to do something detrimental. It's always going to use them to do something good unless it doesn't need them. And then, it's just going to fade into the background, but it's never going to cause any harm, no matter how much you drink. I think Ray has something important to say, so.
Oh, no, everything you're saying is equally important by far. I just think it behoves us to emphasize why we are deficient and why we need to supplement. And then also why it became a supplement. A little bit more on that, if I may. Firstly, mitochondrial density and efficiency peaks at puberty. So healthy puberty is when, and that was well proven long before the discovery of reductants and oxidants, which is where redox molecules is an amalgam of that. That was known long before. So the average decline is 1% per year from peak puberty. So we're looking at 10% per decade of trillions and trillions of molecules per second, per minute, per hour, per day, responsible for healthy functioning. And the redoxime is now known, as well written in Dr. Lee's book, to regulate and control the genome, the DNA, and therefore the expression of the genes, as in what Dr. Lee referred to before in terms of epigenetics. So we are losing these molecules from peak puberty. If you're a healthy, continue to have the right materials, maintain ideal weight, get your exercise, breathe clean air, drink clean water, then you might decline at 0.8% per year or 0.6, but you will decline because that happens to everybody. So that's why effectively, unless you are on this supplement, which is the only one that's ever been successfully made at this juncture and stable to use as a supplement, you are deficient in these molecules. There are inadequate numbers and an inadequate balance to optimize your health. That's just the way it is. So the only people who have those adequate numbers or optimum for your health and that correct balance is people using Asea Redox, because there's no other way. You can tweak it, as Dr. Lee's explained, as Dr. Walker's explained. You can get a little bit more through other methodologies. Go exercising. You'll produce more mitochondria. You'll make more redox molecules. In fact, many of the benefits of exercise are due to that very reason. So that's why we need the product. And in terms of the flipping to a food supplement, therefore why we cannot make medical claims. There is no toxicity, as Dr. Walker has said. You can do no harm whatsoever. Find another supplement you can do that with. You can do no harm. These are made from sodium chloride, hydrogen, oxygen, some with nitrogen. They go back to salt water when they've done their signaling. So it's totally harmless. There's no toxicity. You cannot take too much. I had a gentleman yesterday who was given 2 bottles to try by somebody else, was going through the airport, told you're overweight, so decided his very first dose to drink an entire bottle. So he did. And then had no more after that because he ran out. So I was talking to him only yesterday. So there is no toxicity. There is no allergenicity. Again, find a product that you cannot have any allergy towards. It's really a very difficult find. So, and because they're made natively in the human body, they're totally natural. So if you can't get toxicity, you can't get allergenicity, you can't get an LD50, the lethal dose at which 50% of the users will die, which every drug has, then how do you make it a drug? And it becomes logical not to do so. It becomes logical to do exactly what Virtus Norton did, and that is, well, how do we get this to everybody? How do we get it to market? How do we register it? And what's the best way to market it? And he landed exactly where I'm sure all of us would have landed if we were traversing that same journey.
Hey, Dick, could we go back to you? I think this is a good segue because you talked about being a physician I'll say a burned out physician. You made a comment that your financial side, we don't need to dig into that, but, your personal motivations with this is that you had been challenged with some reversals in the financial side to the point that it wasn't going to sustain you in the future. And so you had some initial, aside from some scientific curiosity, you had some motivations that might be a little bit different from startup. But I think that, to be honest, most of us have those same concerns, especially today. You look at the world today with the economic situations that are going on today, the downsizing, the supply chain issues, the job layoffs, the risks that are going on, people spending more money on healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. That all taken together is creating a very different picture today. And so I think that, we can get kind of bold and noble about saying, if this works for one, how about if I could help 1,000? And we have doctors who say, I maybe could reach 500 in my practice, and but you kind of top out that because you're on a hamster wheel and you've only got so many hours in a day. But if I could get 100 people or 1,000 people, to each help expand my distribution organization network in a pay structure where I could receive, I don't know, I'm not going to say what the number is, a few pennies, we'll just say, from each one of those transactions, I suddenly created a different form of income. Could you go there and kind of with a half of an interest in the comments you make to people who are kind of trapped on that hamster wheel, regardless of what their profession is?
Oh, absolutely. I love the Asea income because what I call it is reproductive residual income. Residual income is by far the best income in the world. What it means is you get paid over and over for work that you've done sometime before, and you keep getting paid. And I've got, part of my paycheck from Asea, my compensation for being out there, talking to people about this, doing things like we're doing tonight, explaining things, is based on people who I brought into this business 10, 11 years ago. And they're still taking the product because, like me, they found that it works. They love it. They don't want to ever be without it because they know how important it is to maintaining their health. So I don't know of very many businesses, jobs, or anything where you can get that kind of residual income and tie that up with helping other people get that and get health benefits. For example, I'll give you, a good example is a couple, end of the year, my stockbroker manager, financial managers called me up and they said, we've got to dole out another $20,000 out of your 401k. And I said, why? I don't need it. Why don't you need it? Because of my Asea income. Well, you have to take it because you set it aside and now the government says you've got to take it and pay taxes on that. So I don't know of too many other people that are retired, even if they have, a pretty good retirement plan. I don't know too many of them who would rather not take the money out of their savings account, out of their savings plan, because they don't need it. Because they're working a business like this that pays residual income, and you're doing it by helping other people. And the reproductive part is that when I help somebody to build a business in this space, they're also helping other people to build that business, and that's all under the umbrella that we've created. And the other issue that arises is, all the money goes to the top. Well, I've got people in my organization that are making more money than I am, who have been sponsored into my group either by myself or somebody else. And so this is the most democratic, greatest business model that I've ever come across. And that residual income is like solid gold. It means that I can go on vacations with my family that I couldn't have done before because I had to work. Or, I used to tell people I never got a Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter vacation where I could take the whole vacation, the whole 3-day weekend or whatever, because I always had to work a shift or two during that, because I was scheduled, and that's part of being part of my contract and the way I worked. But With Asea, I can take all those holidays off, and I can talk to people about it when I'm vacationing, and actually, encourage other people to join me in this business and take this product. So I just love the business model of network marketing, and the way Asea has put it together. We call it next level marketing because we do it in such a personal growth kind of a way. And we could have a whole show about that, about the benefits of the Asea marketing plan and next level marketing. Multi-level marketing as a category is great, and then if you do it the way we do it in Asea, it's double great. It's even better because we've made some additional add-ons and kind of things that make this, I think, the best business opportunity in this market space, bar none. Plus, we've got a product monopoly option. Nobody else makes this. We've got the only redox signaling molecular product in the market space, and because we have the patents locked up for a number of years, we will be the only one for quite substantial period of time. And so, business-wise, I'm as excited about the business as I am about the science and technology and this product, because it just is such a wonderful way to earn a living, whether you want to earn a little or a lot, whether you want to make it full-time or just part-time. Those are decisions that you get to make. You don't have to ask anybody for permission to take a day off or to take a week off, or to say, I'm going to work really hard for 90 days and then I'm going to go travel around the world for 6 weeks or whatever. All of those things are doable with this business model. If you work it consistently, diligently, and you have to work it. It's not magic. It is a business, but it's far better than any other business model, legal business model that I know of.
And Ray, could you give us your thoughts there?
100%. I'm one of the generation in Australia where, with a few assets that I'd accumulated, and I can assure you they weren't massive, just a couple of buildings, just my clinic shop next door. But with all the asset testing they brought in, I will never have a pension from the Australian government. Now, at first I was a little annoyed about that, but because of Asea, I'm not. It's like I don't need a pension. And so I've moved to the next level in even my own mindset. And how good is that? That I basically came out of retirement to share what I love, a great health product, and get to manage and help people all over the world. I stopped counting when I passed 25 countries. Now, I haven't sponsored people in 25 countries. Like Dick said, I've sponsored maybe people in 5, and they've taken me to 25 countries. Running the Zoom calls, helping people all over the world, and 24/7 overnight included, my income grows. So originally, I was fast moving through what I'd accumulated and was trying to set up over here in Phuket, Thailand, some rental properties to maintain an income to keep me living the lifestyle that I live, and that was working okay. But I was going through more money than I was making. And then this came along, and as Dick said, you've got to work it. But once I hit the 3rd year, I was getting close to my income from my practice life, and that was a full-time practice life. And by the 4th year, I passed it. So here I am now, 4.5 years into my journey with Asea, with the freedoms that Dick said, able to travel the world. My iPad goes with me. I travel more than I've ever traveled because I can, and nothing changes, and I enjoy the journey. So, and I won't need any pensions or assistance from anyone. And so all of that adds up to me to the most extraordinary opportunity that's ever existed, quite frankly. So I just do what I love, keep sharing it, and I'm sure that commission check will grow.
Thanks, Ray. I love that context. I know that's hard for some people to wrap their head around because they're so steeped in a traditional methodology or a system for how we earn a living, which is basically trading time for dollars. The whole side hustle, call it the gig economy, is just exploding right now. I was reading a report, I can't remember off the top of my head what the number is, but I think it was like 40 to 50% of physicians even are all pursuing side hustles of one form or another. And the question is, well, why would they be doing that? You know, I mean, our society looks at a physician and says, well, you're rich, or you're in a different, you know, strata than the average person out there. And they've spent many, many years, you know, to getting there. But why would 50 to 60% of them be thinking and pursuing a side hustle? There's a lot of reasons. They're not all money, but there's a lot of reasons for that. And so, you know, Dick, we got a couple of minutes left to make some closing thoughts or comments here. Where would you, how would you close us out here?
I would say if you're a couple of things. If you're just looking at Asea now and thinking about number one, trying the product, I would say you're crazy if you don't. This is an incredible technology, incredible products. They're going to improve your health. There's no doubt about that. But be consistent and make that trial period 3 to 4 months, not 2 to 3 weeks. We hear about a lot of these amazing experiences that take place very quickly, but the majority of them take a little bit longer. And I've been taking this product for 11 years, and I've had a number of things happen throughout that time period that didn't happen right away, but came with consistent use over time. If you're toying with the business, or maybe you had never really thought about another business, I can't imagine a better business to experiment with, and if you experiment with and like it, to really invest some time and effort in learning it and doing it to whatever degree you need to create the kind of income that you want. And I would encourage you to start dreaming again if you haven't. I mean, if you've been on the treadmill, where you just are working, trading time for dollars, and you just ran out of time, but you need more dollars. Why, this is where you want to invest some time and learn about it, and then start, engage with it, because it's a great way to leverage your time and create extra income. And it's fun because you're doing it by helping other people. You can't do this without helping other people. You can't be successful without helping other people, both with the product and with the business model. But it gets to be a very enjoyable and very productive way to change your lifestyle for the better. So start dreaming again. If you haven't taken a vacation for 2 or 3 years, start dreaming about what you want to do on your next vacation if you build a successful Asea business, because it's certainly a way to do it. That side hustle can end up being a main hustle in a quick hurry if you really dig into it and start talking to a lot of other people and building this business. And there's plenty of coaching, plenty of training, all for free. Everybody that brings in new people is there to help them with that and direct them in the right direction for that. So it's a great business.
Hey, we've got a minute. Give us your final thoughts here. Where do we go?
Okay. I want to emphasize too what Dr. Walker just mentioned. We always try to get certain key points through the program, and that is the period of use is really critical. To build one's belief in the product, we need results. And we judge results as people by signs and symptom change, basically. But there's a lot of healing that can be going on before you get to the signs and symptoms change. The same as there was a lot of deterioration taking place before your disease process truly manifested and was diagnosed. So therein lies the 3 to 4 month importance of persistence. Now, that is not a cutoff, as Dr. Walker said, and I know his story. He had remarkable results on serious conditions that he'd had for 20, 30 years, 3 and 4 years into usage. So it really is a constant healing journey, not just anti-aging, but reverse of aging. So at least 3 to 4 months, we advise of consistent use. And if you're not seeing results, take more. It's that simple. Before you judge the product, because once you get 90% of people know the results, it's working by then. And then just keep going, and you will be forever grateful if you do. So I wanted to emphasize that first. Second, I think my experience with the people I work with in Asea Redox is second to none of anything else I've ever experienced in my life. Now, this includes, all the colleagues in naturopathy, in chiropractic, in the natural medicine world that I participated for now 42 years. I get as much or more from my fulfillment, that is, from my interaction and learning with Asea professionals and associates, be they health professionals or not, than I've ever had from anything else. So you've got an income opportunity. As Dick said, to whatever you need, you can work to that level, and there is no limit. You've got the product, as I stated earlier, that is the greatest health product that has ever been discovered in human history, in my opinion. And you can have a lifestyle that you could only dream of. So Dick is right. Start dreaming and seize the opportunity. Don't miss the opportunity to change your life, be it a physical change in your health journey and or any add-ons in terms of an income opportunity and sharing the business around the world. So I'd encourage everyone, as Dick and Dr. Lee, to just seize the moment, seize the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been a pleasure. We're at the end of our Asea 5 time tonight. We look forward next week to having Dr. Ed De La Reyes, a physician in Bowling Green, Kentucky, to be with us. And we'll get Carolyn Hoffman back on, rescheduled from her absence tonight at a future time. My parting thought would be, as I said earlier, get with the person who invited you to this or who shared this with you, and have this frank discussion with them. This is a pivotal moment in it's really our global history. We have things changing all around us on every level. These are not days that you really want to be susceptible to becoming sick. And so people are taking into their own hands some of the more of the responsibility to have good cellular health. And they're also taking back control of their life financially, because we have these new models, when they're done right, with all these things set in place through protected and high integrity type products that are breakthrough. When you get the right people in the right time and the right place, and we have all of these dots are lining up like this, this is an incredible opportunity to use the power of what I call generational leverage. You can own a business and have 10 or 50 or 100 employees, and that's all horizontal. You can be a broker and have agents working under you, but your agents can't have agents. Your employees can't have employees. If you were a franchise, owner, you couldn't have your own franchise under the same brand. And so you're limited to horizontal leverage. But we have generational leverage. I love that word that Dick used, this reproductive residual income. It continues to reoccur over and over and build, and that is an extremely powerful form of leverage. And so if you're looking for a side hustle for whatever reason, if you're wanting to get off the hamster wheel, this is where the due diligence needs to be pointed at, because help yourself. You can walk more dogs and groom more dogs and take in more ironing if you want. It's just you're trading more time for probably fewer dollars and you're burning out. But this is an incredible opportunity to leverage everything around things that are very expertly and strategically positioned in today's marketplace. So it's been a joy to have both of you on. This is a great opportunity to have you share your thoughts and opinions. And again, for now, this is Dr. Lee Ostler and Dick Walker and Ray Dixon signing off from another Asea 5 journey. We will see you next week at the regular time. This recording will be posted at redoxmatters.com in a couple of hours. And we hope that you would feel welcome and encouraged to share it with as many people as you can. Thank you and goodbye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Dr. Walker.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.